shelter to women and children since that day. There is much work to do, and we are committed as ever. Our mission continues. As I speak to you tonight, thousands remain silent. It is part of my job to bring this issue out from the veils of secrecy and shadows, to lead this conversation and not allow anyone to deny the pervasiveness of this problem in our society and, yes, our community. Holding a vigil to remember and honor survivors of domestic violence is more than a symbolic action. We are also doing this to get you involved directly, to keep our community focused on a very real problem. As a community, we must stand together and continue to deliver the message that domestic violence will not be tolerated. Together, our voices are louder and stronger. None of us can solve this crisis alone, but by working together and using every tool at our disposal, and by refusing to back down or give up, we can make a difference in our homes, in our community. Today we honor the lives of domestic violence survivors. We salute their strength and their courage and support those working to prevent it and to empower survivors. We would like to take a moment to remember the survivors who have been empowered, and to those who cannot yet make their voices heard, and to honor those who can never be heard again because they've been forever silenced as victims of domestic violence. Tonight we have with us Mr. John Bodas from the Huron County Commissioners. He's here this evening to read the proclamation and declare Domestic Violence Month here in Huron County.
My name is Kevin Knobloch. I'm a detective sergeant here in Bad Axe. I want to thank MJ for inviting me here to say a few words this evening. The Safe Place is a great asset to law enforcement. We have utilized their resources many times over the years. I believe 13 years. MJ said it was they've been open. They've been a great asset for us. Domestic violence is violence or other abuse from one partner onto another in a domestic situation. Domestic violence is prevalent in every community throughout the United States, including ours. It affects all people regardless of age, sexual orientation, gender, race, religion, or nationality. Domestic violence can take many forms. Physical battery and sexual battery are the most probable acts of violence between partners. Unfortunately, in some cases, domestic violence can result in physical trauma or even death. Domestic violence is a leading cause in injury to women. Every 9 seconds, a woman is assaulted in the United States. Studies suggest that 10 million children will witness some form of domestic violence annually. Every day in the U.S., more than 3 women are murdered by their boyfriends or husbands. I thought that was a very astonishing statistic when I was doing some research. Domestic abuse offenders use a wide range of coercive and abusive behaviors against their victims. Some abuse results in physical injuries, while others will have emotional effect on victims. A single incident of domestic violence or threat of violence may be sufficient to establish power, control over their partner. This is often reinforced and strengthened by non-physical abuse or coercive behaviors. Domestic violence transcends into the emotional aspect and can have a long-lasting effect on victims. Verbal abuse can have the same impact as physical abuse, especially when there's a long-lasting pattern of abusive behavior. This can lead to psychological challenges to the victim, which leads to depression, suicidal tendencies, and other challenges facing the victims. Emotional abuse involves undermining victims' self-worth, intimidation, threats of harm, and isolation. Locally, I researched records from the Huron County Sheriff's Department and the city of Bad Axe, and I have not seen a drastic decrease in domestic violence. It hasn't had a stipend, but it also has not decreased. From a law enforcement aspect, I believe progress has been made in domestic violence over the last several years. There's been a wide range of laws that have been enacted to help protect victims and to assist law enforcement in investigating domestic violence situations. Part of my duties with the Bad Axe Police Department are to sign all arrest warrants, including suspected domestic violence perpetrators. I review police reports and I'm required to present probable cause rendition to the magistrate, district court, or circuit court judge or attorney magistrate. If probable cause is established, the warrant is authorized and the perpetrator is then arraigned and sent through the judicial process. Prosecutors and courts are taking domestic violence cases very seriously, and offenders are being sentenced to lengthy jail sentences, and in some cases, they're being imposed prison sentences for repeat offenders. They're taking a very harsh stance. I see it firsthand. I believe it's a sociological or psychological term called self-fulfilling prophecy. Some of you may know it. It can be closely associated with domestic violence. This basically means that a child growing up in an abusive environment will continue this behavior into adulthood. Statistics that indicate men who as children witnessed their parents involved in domestic violence situations were twice as likely to abuse their own wives. So how do we change this as a society? We know there's no excuse for domestic violence. I feel society and our community needs to send a clear and distinguished message that it's not going to be tolerated. Zero tolerance. That message needs to start in our schools with our younger generation and setting good examples so we can strengthen our community. We need to educate them on respecting others along with themselves. It's also a question of social responsibility, which requires all of us to play a certain role in prevention. Eradicating domestic violence from our society will require a collaborative effort from law enforcement, prosecutors, courts, counselors, rehabilitative programs, and taking a strong stance on domestic violence. Thank you.
It is well with my soul. With my soul. It is well with my soul.